Alright, let's break down this exit slip that I gave you guys. This is set up exactly the same as the problem that we did in class together, so I'm going to work through this kind of quickly, but I have it all kind of set up for you guys. You'll see that we're going to fill in the statements and the reasons as we go. The first thing that I want to point out to you guys is in my first statement, statement number 1, I have angle 1 congruent to angle 2. I know that that is true because it is in my givens, and I am going to use that information if I can. So the reason why I know that that first statement is true is because it's given. And I'm just going to write that in for my first reason. The next thing that I need to do is I need to start working this thing around. I eventually want to get angle 3 congruent to angle 4, and the steps that I use, it doesn't really matter which ones I do first, but I need to work this thing all the way through. I already have angle 1 congruent to angle 2, so I'm starting off with this one, and I also know that there's another angle that angle 2 is congruent to. It's also congruent to angle 3, and I know why. So I can say that angle 2 and angle 3 are congruent to each other, and I know why because of the way they're positioned. The way they're positioned, they are vertical to each other, so they are vertical angles, and verticals are always congruent to each other. Alright, now this is kind of a big deal, because what you see in my statements is I have 1 being congruent to 2, and 2 being congruent to 3, so what I can do is I can kind of skip that middle part and just go straight in and say, well, you know what then, angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. Now, there is a property that allows me to transition from one statement to the next, and that whole idea of transition is the transitive property. And that's going to allow me to go from step 1 to step 2 and then logically make that assertion into step 3. Now, sweet. I've got angle 1 and angle 3 congruent to each other. I also know, because of this whole vertical angle thing, that angle 1 and angle 4 are also congruent to each other. So I'm just going to throw that in there because I already know that that's true. 1 and 4 are good to go. And again, because of the way they are positioned, they are vertical to each other. And I have all of this stuff set up, and again, now I have something that's kind of interesting. I have angle 1 being congruent to angle 3, and angle 1 being congruent to angle 4. That means that 3 and 4 have to be congruent to each other, so I can put down 3 and 4 being congruent to each other, and again, the reason why I know that is true, because I transition from statement 3 to 4 and into 5. I'm transitioning statements. This is the transitive property. And that is exactly what I wanted to prove. All done.